Welcome, everyone. This is Up Your Rank FPL. We are your hosts. I'm AC. That's Bry bringing you another episode. This time, Game Week 3 preview. If you guys are new around here and you like the content that we are bringing you, please make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss a beat, and follow us on Twitter at Up Your Rank FPL. Bry, my guy, Wagwan, Game Week 3 is here. How you feeling?
Man, I'm excited. It's another game week. Another 10 games for FPL. We could hopefully turn some things around, right the ship. We have a couple little small, tiny fires we need to put out, but I'm excited for it, man. How you feeling about the game week?
Hold on. Let me just say something. Fires about your real team or fires about your FPL team? What are we talking about?
No. Listen, my real team, Mike Dean, has already come out. He was the VAR. He's already come out and said he got the call wrong. Should have pulled it. He should have called a hair pull and sent Anthony Taylor to the VAR screen. But we move on. My team is good. The FPL team, on the other hand, we have a couple little fires that I gotta keep an eye on.
And I think I'm a little bit of the reverse. My team is not good. Liverpool is Liverpool is not good. 2 draws to start the campaign. But my FPL team, we're all right. I'm not too crazy. Shoot, right now. I'm not even really worried.
Booming.
I mean, I wouldn't say the word boom. It's still pretty early in the campaign. So it's 2 game weeks in. It's nothing. You know how quick that could change.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm not even concerned about price drops. Trust me, price drops. I've kept hold a player or two who's probably dropped in price, and so.
Interesting. All right. Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the team and see what you do then. All right.
Yeah, but before we even jump into the team reveal, what's buzzing around the league? What are you hearing? What news is out there right now? What teams are you maybe watching to prepare for the moves that you're about to make in FPL? Talk to me.
There are definitely a couple of teams that are on my radar right now. And this game week is going to be a crucial one, especially for some future transfers, for sure. One of the big ones I got my eye on, listen, it's the battle of the mid-priced forwards this week. Fulham versus Brentford. You got Mitro going up against Tony. I'm looking forward to see how that one goes. These are 2 teams that roughly, Brentford is punching well above their weight right now. They're probably in 2 different halves of the table, but these are 2 teams that should be going for 3 points each. And I'm excited to see how that one goes. I'm really hoping Tony comes out on top because I have him in my watch list and I'm itching to do a couple maneuvers to hopefully get me to him if I can find the cash. So I'm hoping he does well. That's probably one of the bigger games on Saturday that I'm really looking forward to.
So if you had to put a prediction on the score for Brentford, Fulham.
If I had to put a prediction on the score for that, I would love it to be a 2-1. Hopefully Tony is involved. But I do see Fulham. It's either going to be a 2-1 or a 2-0. That's my prediction. 2-1 or 2-0. That's what I'm looking to pull out there.
Yeah, I was going to say 2-0 Brentford. I don't think Fulham is going to get onto the score sheet. Fair. I think that Brentford right now is riding a high. It's a very strong start to their season. And they got to be buzzing after a 4-0 how do you let that go? You're gonna be in the locker room, the change room with the mans, and you're gonna be like, look what we did to Manchester United. We're facing a newly promoted club. I know I say that every single week, and I'm going to say that every single week for the first couple of weeks while we're in a new campaign, because they're still trying to feel themselves out in the Premier League.
For sure.
A team like Brentford use that momentum. Any team really use that momentum of taking down a top 6 club and go into this feeling confident. As you said, Tony's in form.
Yeah.
You didn't say this particular thing, but we all know in terms of the community, De Silva's in form. That's why his price has already risen, and it's going to go up once again by the time we even finish shooting this video. And I'm super frustrated because I haven't been able to bring him into my team.
Yeah, he's one of those players who, it's funny. If you remember the first draft that we put out, I had De Silva in my first draft.
Yes, you did.
And, looking back at it, sometimes, it's always funny when you look back, you're like, man, I should have just went with my initial draft and just leave it at that. You tinker so much, you end up making the wrong, you end up changing things around, but it is what it is. But he's one of those players who I'd love to get in. I just haven't been able to find the right move to really make it happen.
I'm not chasing the price rises this year. I did it last year, and last year was probably one of my worst seasons. I'm not chasing the price rises. The player drops in price, they drop in price. I'm sticking to my plan. I'm actually using your advice. I'm documenting all of my transfers.
Good.
I'm writing to myself, why did I make that particular transfer? So when I go back and I say to myself, you know what? At the time, I thought I was making a logical decision. I'm no knee-jerk reactions.
Good.
So if that means that, the likes of Bailey drops in price, so it go.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I love that. I did that last year, as you know, and it ended up being one of my best FPL seasons. So I'm continuing to do that. You'll see throughout the campaign, I'll make maybe a couple of moves where it might seem a little bit questionable, but based on the information that I have at the time, at least I'll be able to look back at this on the season and say, okay, this is why I did this decision. This is why I ended up doing this.
Exactly. Curious, what are your thoughts on hits this early? Because I'm sure some people have already taken hits or are going into game week 3 taking hits just to avoid being priced out of certain players. What are your thoughts on that?
So taking hits, for me, taking hits for price rises or price drops, I don't think is a long-term sustainably positive strategy. Long term, I don't think it's a good thing to do. There are certain situations where, it can make sense and it can yield immediate results. I just think taking hits for price changes long term is not the way to go about it. If you look at if you look at some of the consistently top performing FPL managers, throughout the last few years, you'll notice that they don't chase price rises. They tend to stick to their guns. If they're able to field a strong enough starting 11, they typically don't take hits to just get players out, just because somebody's the flavor of the week, especially this early in the season. I think, it could be something that could be fruitful, but it's not something that I would be looking to do long term. If you've maybe saved up a transfer and you have 2 transfers and you maybe want to do a little bit of a mini wild card, I think that's maybe an opportunity that makes sense there if it's not just the price change that you're looking at. But overall, listen, man, the name of the game is to get the most points, and consistently minimizing how many points you can take home the game due to a hit is just not a good long-term strategy. At least that's my perspective and how I play the game. There are people who, take hits all the time and still end up outscoring me come the end of the season, but that's just not my strategy.
100%. I got to agree with you. Taking the hits right now, unless your team is really, really on fire, if your team is really on fire, you might even want to consider using the wild card. Do keep in mind, everyone, there's going to be 3 opportunities this campaign to use the wild card. Essentially, with the World Cup coming up, and you're going to be able to make all those unlimited transfers, and then 1 wild card each half of the season. So, if your team is really, really on fire, use your wild card. If you have to probably make 5 changes or more. I kind of stick around that 6+, but you would have had to really start off pretty poorly to already be considering that. And have a look at your team to make sure that that's the right move for you. If there's a lot of greens in terms of that fixture difficulty and you have the right players who are attacking enough, you might want to just relax. The time may come for them to eventually get on the score sheet. But let's just bring it back to the actual game week that's coming up. Sorry for going a bit off track.
No, it's all good.
You wanted to talk about the Fulham Brentford game. Cool. I want to talk about the Liverpool Manchester United game.
Yes, I know that was going to be your game that you wanted to touch on this week. What are your thoughts? What are you most looking forward to about this game? What are you thinking about?
Obviously, I'm looking forward to 3 points. That is, forget FPL for a second. I'm looking forward to 3 points. Okay. And if those 3 points don't come, it's going to be a long week for me because I'm going to have some Manchester United fans in my ear. They're going to be calling me out on all the hate that I've been sending Manchester United's way.
Hey, you better not. They better not even score on y'all. Even if they score, you going to get it.
Now the thing is that I don't even know. I'm not even confident that Liverpool is going to keep a clean sheet. Yeah, I have no idea. This streak right now of getting scored on, it's very, very frustrating. And they're playing an away game. It's very difficult to play at Old Trafford. It's not an easy ground to just walk in and say, I'm about to go and dominate. That, if the game was at Anfield, maybe I'd have different sentiments, but it's still a big game. Now, I was hearing rumors that there are going to be some protests at that match. This was a couple of days ago. I haven't followed up today. Were you hearing similar things?
You know what? The Manchester United fans have actually been planning to protest this particular game before the season even started. So prior to game week 1, even, the first ball even getting kicked for the new season, they were planning to protest this Liverpool game. Of course, towards the owners, the Glaciers, the majority of Manchester United fans haven't been happy with how they've been running the club from an investment standpoint and, as a business overall. So they've been planning to do that. Now, because it's been so long and it's so talked about, from an FPL standpoint, we're hoping that, there's enough law enforcement on board there to kind of keep things going. But it is one that's a little bit something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, it would be very unfortunate if the game were to be postponed and all of a sudden, most managers probably have at least 2 players from Liverpool alone, not to mention the Manchester United players they may already have on their squad if they haven't already transferred them out. There could be some managers out there with 4 or 5 players from this team, right? All of a sudden, that's a very, very bad game week for you where, and you can't even properly prepare for that because the game week would have already started. And then you find out after that the game is postponed. I don't think it will be. I'm not really too concerned about a postponement. A delay is probably likely, if anything, but I think the game will go on. And when it does go on, there are a couple of things that I'm a bit concerned about from the Reds' perspective. First of all, we don't have Nunes. And I don't know whether or not having Bobby has a knock, whether or not he's even going to be playing in the game. We don't have Jota. So up front is looking very, very thin already attacking wise. We only have a healthy Salah and a healthy Diaz. Now, where is that attacking threat really going to come from? Because I'm not seeing it from the defense in terms of Robertson, in terms of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Young Harvey Elliott, since coming back from the injury, to me personally, I know he came back from the injury last season.
Yeah.
But the way he started off last season compared to how he's starting off this season, that little bit of extra juice, I'm not fully seeing. I'm seeing that a couple of his early touches, and I think this is fine because it happens to some footballers. It takes you a little bit of time to get into the game. But the previous game that they played, I saw a couple of his touches weren't as ideal. He was giving up the ball in the attacking
In the
third
middle.
when that's where we want to control it. Now all of a sudden we're scrambling and trying to get back into position. It didn't lead to anything. He didn't cause any significant errors, but it's just something that I noticed a little early on in the game from him. So I'm looking at that midfield and I'm trying to think to myself, in the middle, where is that attacking threat going to come from? And is Bobby going to play?
Yeah.
And if Bobby does play, I respect everything that Bobby has done for the club. I'm personally not a huge fan.
Fair.
That's just me.
It's interesting. That's interesting.
And I'm not going to put any slander on his name. I think Firmino creates great opportunities for his teammates. And I'm gonna just leave it there because I don't want to put no slander on his name. You know.
But here's what I will say here's what I will say for towards Bobby, or a positive for him. And this is more so selfishly pertaining to FPL. I think and of course I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I think we consistently see Mo have better returns when Bobby's in the team. I just, when Nunes, even Jota at times when he was playing up top, there are many times where you're seeing them, taking opportunities that could potentially come to Mo kind of off of him. It's very slight, but I could see him returning more consistently with Bobby up front. That's just my POV.
And you know what? I kind of agree with you. If I think back to the last couple of seasons, how Bobby has been playing and how the others have been gelling with the likes of Mane, with the likes of Jota when he came into the squad. Bobby's legs are also, they're not what they used to be.
Yeah,
so not having Darwin is a very, very, very huge concern to me. Now, the only benefit is that Manchester United defense is horrid. It's rubbish. I take it to the shoot in my condo building. I just, it's a chore. That's what they're like. So I'm hoping that plays into our favor. There's just a lot of, the team is in shambles. People are not getting along. That locker room is not in a good spot.
Disastrous.
A lot of rumors continue to spread.
Yep.
I really don't know what's going to happen to that storied club. Every club, I would imagine, goes through a very rough patch. Liverpool went through their own. And we're at the opposite end as we currently speak, and it's Manchester United's time to go through it. I would hate for such a big club to ever find themselves in a position where they are actually facing relegation. I don't think it would be good for football.
Well, you know what? I think you touched on an interesting topic that I wanted to ask you about this. Do you think Manchester United is going to be in a bottom of the table relegation battle, or, bottom half of the table? Where do you see them at? Maybe netting out.
By the end of the season, I see them at the bottom half of the top of the table. I don't think that Manchester United is going to be going through a rough patch at the end of the season, but this is going to be a rough patch even by their standards because they're not competing for top six. They're not competing for European football. I do not predict that Manchester United is going to be able to compete for any European spots this year. Absolutely not. I just don't see it. The other teams got better and they didn't. Arsenal got better. Tottenham got better. Liverpool got better. City got better. Right. I mean, Brentford got better. Mm-hmm. I really see Brentford as a club that is going to push for. I love when teams within the last couple of years get promoted and push for it. The Leeds, the Wolves, now the Brentford. I think that's great for football. But with respects to United, there's no way. Do you think they're going to be fighting for relegate? Come on.
I'm not
on.
gonna I'm not gonna
You know?
right now. Well, right now, they're in relegation form right now.
Yeah.
If we just look at their away form, not counting their home games, their away record is one of the worst away records in the Premier League since last season, right? Since the turn of the year. Um, they're not going to be in a relegation battle, but I don't see this current Manchester United squad without them making some significant inroads in the transfer market. They're not, to me, they're right now, they're not even a, top 7 team. I can easily name 7, maybe 8 teams that I think are better than them today. And I mean, Brentford showed it. They played Brentford last week, and Brentford is, if anyone says, oh, Brentford is going to be challenging for top 4, come on, that's not going to be happening. But look at how Brentford, kind of dealt with them last week. So we'll see. I see them anywhere between that 7 to 10, slot, somewhere within there.
Yeah, so we see them in the same range. I do see Brentford finishing ahead of them, and it's probably a little out there, but I do know some people would agree. I think Newcastle will finish ahead of them as well.
That hurts. That hurts.
That hurts. Who does that hurt?
That hurt. That hurts. It's funny. You say Newcastle's your other team. I think even a team like Crystal Palace is playing better football than. I think a team like Brighton is playing better football than Manchester United right now. Yeah. Just where it stands at the moment, but we'll see. Hopefully, they can continue. They can turn things around, and we'll see where it nets out.
If I'm looking at the Manchester United players, if anybody were to get onto the score sheet against Liverpool this particular week, if anybody were to do it, I believe it's likely going to be a defender. I don't even think it's going to be an attacking player on Manchester United's team. That's how bad I think their attack is right now.
Okay. What are you predicting for a score? What do you think?
Ideally, I would hope it's just 2-0. But my gut tells me that it's going to be a 2-1 game Liverpool.
2-1 Liverpool. Okay.
Yeah. I think Liverpool is going to concede in this game.
I like that.
You like that? Of course you do.
I like that. Well, I like your prediction. Your prediction is fairly in line with what I'm thinking. I've taken it a little bit of a step further. However, I think Liverpool is going to give them 3-1, maybe 3-0. That's where I'm at.
And I'm hopeful. I think it's just one of those things where I'd rather keep my expectations low. And not be let down.
That's fair.
Because I think it's going to be a tough game for me to watch. I want to put the armband on Salah. I think he will bounce back in this particular game. If I look at the last 2 games, he had 8 attempted assists in the Crystal game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
His ability, it's not going to disappear no matter who he plays. It's just that Liverpool don't seem to be finding the back of the net right now. Those goals, that attacking, it's not there. Is it possible that it comes back against United? I don't know if you remember this, but we were speaking to one of our mutual friends last year in our messenger chat, and I had predicted, I think it was a 4-0 game for Liverpool, and I was laughed at as if Liverpool weren't going to be able to ship that many goals past United. And lo and behold, when the score was announced, that's exactly what it was. It was multiple goals. And anybody who had the armband on Salah that game definitely benefited from a lot of points. So we know what he's capable of when he plays big teams. When they just faced City in the Community Shield, look what he did. We know what he's capable of. He's fixture proof.
He is fixture proof. I think he's a player who likes rising to the occasion. He likes playing United. I don't think United have one single defender on that entire squad who is fully capable of dealing with Mo in 1v1 situations, especially on the left-hand side. Shaw cannot deal with Mo, of course. Their new player, Malacia, I mean, I don't know a lot about him as a player. I know he comes from, the league in Holland, but I don't think he's even came across a player like Mo. I don't think he's played against somebody of that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he's on the field, he's going to be in for a rough time. And anyone who's putting the armband on Mo, I am not. That's the move I am not against. I'll just leave it at that.
100%. I don't know if Tyrell is going to be able to. I just like you. I haven't watched much outside of a 1-2 highlight on YouTube, and so I'm not sure of what he's actually capable of. But when I look at everybody else, you have guys like Varane. Is Varane even going to see the pitch for whatever reason? He's. It's crazy how when some guys come to the league to the Prem, who they once were, they're just a shadow of themselves.
That's fair. I think in Varane's case, though, it's a little bit different because it's a player who is, Varane's what, I think he's 4 times a Champions League winner, World Cup winner, multiple championships in Spain. He's a player. He's won everything. I just don't know if his motivation is as is really there like that.
He's quality.
Yeah,
or at least he's proven that he's quality. And I actually thought he was going to be the type of defender that was going to be seeing my FPL team for years to come. But he didn't really pan out last year, and now I'm just sticking away from Manchester United defenders because I can't trust them to keep clean sheets. Yeah. I can't even trust that he's going to play 60 minutes.
Yeah. Injuries have caught up with him. A lot of miles are on that body. He's over 30 now. And it's just one of those situations. I don't blame him as much in this scenario. We know what he can do, throughout his career.
So let's move on from Liverpool, Manchester United, and let's talk about Manchester City.
Yeah, City versus Newcastle.
So I think that's going to be an interesting game because I think that Newcastle has an opportunity to actually shut out City. I would not 100% be surprised if the game ended 0-0. Now, the only reason why I say that is because Newcastle has this newfound life. and I like it. It just makes football interesting. I don't think it's actually going to happen. Let's be real. If I have to make a prediction, Haaland is going to get on that score sheet. He's going to make up for the fact that he didn't score in the game against, I believe it was Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And he's going to be hungry to score goals. That's just the type of player that he is. He's already taken multiple shots. He's probably going to take at least 4-5 shots in this game, 2 on target, 1 finding the back of the net. Might even get an assist because he won't be as selfish as Foden, and he'll even square it to him and get Foden onto the score sheet. If I had to make a prediction in that game, if you are holding on to Newcastle defenders, you may want to bench them for this one, unless you really have a gut feeling that they're going to perform well. I'm going to predict a 2, maybe even 3-0 game for Manchester City. I just wouldn't be surprised though if Newcastle were to park the bus and made it very difficult for Haaland to find those gaps in between the defenders, and the likes of a KDB. It's not going to be as easy to find Haaland to finish those. Right, might have to be taking more shots from outside the box, and we know that in between the sticks, Pope has been performing.
Pope is a beast. Yep.
Right. So it can go either way. It is an away game for City as well. Not that it matters, but just, when you have the fans, stadium gets loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just never know. What are you thinking with respects to that game overall?
That game is the one I have earmarked as the trickiest game of the game week, Newcastle City. And partially because of some of the reasons that you mentioned already, this could be a game where there's no one that gets on the score sheet. It could be a draw. Maybe Newcastle sets up shop. It's one of those games where, and we've seen City do this a number of times over the course of the years since Pep's been there, and Newcastle has done this a couple times to them. If City fails to get onto the score sheet within that first 35, 40 minutes, if they're unable to score in the first half, you see how Newcastle can grow into the game, continue to sit back and soak up pressure, and City just becomes unable to break them down. It could be a potential scenario like that, but it could be the complete opposite, like you're saying. If City scores within that first 20, 25 minutes, they're on for a 2-0, 3-0 game, right? So it's a tricky one. For me, Holland and Moore really kind of the toss-up captain options in my own personal FPL team. If I had KDB, he'd be there as well. And it's interesting because that Newcastle game, I just don't know what to do with it. Haaland's going to be hungry to get on that score sheet, like you mentioned. So it's like, man, do you not just throw the armband on him and let him do his thing? But it's one of those that's a tricky call. I either have it at 0-0 or 3-0.
I agree because I'm not seeing the attacking threat come from Newcastle. I believe in their last game when they faced Brighton, they only had 4 shots. They took 4 shots. Callum Wilson played 86 minutes and had 0 shots.
Yeah. Yep.
He's your go-to forward.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
Right. So if you're going to struggle against a team like Brighton, don't get me wrong. Brighton's defense is nice. I'm going to give it. I do give credit where credit is due. But we are talking about a world-class defense in City. So that's why I feel as though I just don't see Newcastle getting on the score sheet. But if they do decide to park the bus and they keep it tight, it may make it difficult for City to have any chances. They're not going to stop shooting, but maybe if they force them to take more difficult shots, get less touches inside the box, because that's where Haaland is mostly the threat, right? His touches in the box are high. That's how he finishes most of his goals. You're not going to see him taking wild shots from outside the 18. That's not his play. Leave that up to KDB. Leave that up to the likes of Amares. Leave that up to a Foden.
I appreciate you shouting out Mars there. Really appreciate that.
I mean, he has the quality, right? So, but I think everybody, if we had money to put on that game, it's going to go to City.
Okay. All right. I like it. Well, with that, we've touched on a couple of these games that we're interested in seeing this game week. Let's jump into the FPL team. Why don't you show me what you got going on this week for your team? How you're setting up? What are you considering for transfers? Talk to me.
All right. So let me bring up my team, show you how I'm preparing for game week 3. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and made my transfers. I banked a transfer previously, so I was able to come into this game week with 2 free transfers, and I went ahead and used them pretty early. Normally, I would wait until the actual team managers had their press conference, revealed some information. Maybe there's a knock on the squad. Maybe there's some new information that comes to light that makes me want to save that transfer until the very last minute, but not this time around. There was a man on my watch list. I could not wait to bring him in. Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
So I definitely got him. I actually caught him before the price rise as well.
Okay, nice.
So that was nice because I don't have any money in the bank. So I only had 4.5 left, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I decided to downgrade Robertson. The double Liverpool defense just has not started off the campaign right. If I had stuck with my guns, I had Zinchenko in the back, who already delivered more points in one game than both Trent and Robertson combined. And I had my I had my rotating goalkeepers in Rea and Sanchez, who also have been scoring points. So Me deciding to go double Liverpool defense has completely hurt me. And just like you said earlier, if we just stuck to our original draft, how things would be so different just by sticking to that original draft. But so go. Here I am now, and I brought in Tony. I took out Archer. I brought in Ben Mee, and I took out Robertson. Now, I brought in Ben Mee because at the time he has 1% ownership. Now he's gone up to 3 point whatever. And more people are jumping on him because he scored a goal in the last game. And I didn't want people to really jump on Ben Mee. I wanted people to jump on, Henry or something like that if you were going to go for the Brentford defense. But I do really believe in their ability to keep Fulham off of the score sheet. 2 out of the last 3 games against Fulham, they've kept clean sheets and they've won those games.
Yes.
Obviously, Ben Mee wasn't on the team at that time, but he's playing on a much better squad than he previously has not just from a Premier League standpoint, but just from an FPL standpoint as well. He has better defenders around him and he has a better goalkeeper. Maybe not. Maybe better is not the right word, but he has a strong goalkeeper in Raya.
Yeah.
So those are my only 2 changes. I have Williams first off the bench. I kept Bailey. He's dropped in price, and I put Andreas third on the bench because he is flagged. Not 100% sure if he's going to play. He does have a game against Brentford. If you recall, I don't like playing my attackers against my defenders. It's just I just really hate playing FPL that way. If I'm gonna go with defense, I want to double down on my defense a lot of the time. But this time I have I've changed my formation to a 4-3-3. This is something I had contemplated prior. Last season being big up top was not the way to go. But so far to start this season,
it's looking like the wave.
Top seems to be the way to go. Now, for anybody watching, if you are potentially priced out of Tony, look at the likes of Mbeumo to come into your team. He's a full 1 million cheaper. He is able to be as attacking. He's just been a little unfortunate in the last 2 game weeks not to get onto the score sheet. I wouldn't be surprised if he does this particular game week, but Tony is the man for me. Tony's always going to be the man for me. And I'm hoping that Brentford can definitely keep that clean sheet. When I'm looking at James and Cancelo for Chelsea and City, I'm hoping that those clean sheets stay. The armband is currently on Haaland, but I may switch it to Salah in the midfield because of the clean sheet point that you can get possibly, as well as the extra point for the goal, right? So if there's a clean sheet and a goal, that's an extra 2 points. Double that, that's 4 points. And, early in the season, those extra 4 points can go a long way.
Yep.
Pope is the reason why I'm being thrown off of putting the armband on Haaland, whereas De Gea, chicken. KFC right there. I don't know. I don't know. Liverpool's a little. We talked about it, so I'm just gonna bite my tongue there. I'm even contemplating maybe putting that armband on Jesus. You're going up against Bournemouth, and Bournemouth is not looking like a good squad at this particular time. Although they somehow have 3 points, but. So I shouldn't say they are not looking like a good squad. I take that back. It's not that they're not looking like a good squad. Arsenal is just looking as a more superior squad. And obviously, if I'm going to bet money on that game, I'm going to put it in Arsenal's favor. Martinelli is looking like the way better pick than Saka to start off the campaign. But Saka's not worth taking out of my team. I am not taking a hit to move Saka. The fixtures are good coming up.
Yep.
Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, United. Everton. Yep. I mean, he's probably going to drop in price on my team, but I just don't. He's not a fire that's worth putting out.
Fair.
Right. So I'm really liking how my team is looking going into the game week, minus Ward between the sticks. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet. Southampton's going to get on the score sheet, and it's going to be somebody like either Ward Prowse or Gineppo or something like that is getting onto the score sheet that game, man.
Well, you know what? I think the team looks good. I like the moves that you made as well. You touch on Ward as kind of that area in your team or one of those players in your team who you don't seem to be as confident in. Do you have any insight into what your strategy might be to change that up? Or do you plan on just writing it out until you wild card?
No, I mean, to change the goalkeepers, that's probably not going to happen until a wild card, right? So Ward has Chelsea come. Oh, that's going to be a slaughter. Jesus. Then United, Brighton. It's not worth it. I don't see, unless I'm going to bank a transfer ideally going into game week. Game week 4.
Yeah, game week 4. Sorry, yeah.
So going into game week 4, I intend to probably not use it unless I have to put out a fire. So that means I'm going in with Ward against Chelsea. I don't have any money in the bank. Where is that? I don't have any money in the bank. You're not going to be able to see it on screen. I don't have any money in the bank to make a move. So I don't see what options I have. I have to hold on to Ward and hope that it's not the -1 because he's getting scored on 6 times or however many times it takes to get to a -1. Yeah, I the goalkeepers until the wild card comes out, that's when the goalkeepers are going to get changed. And I'm probably going to pull some money, believe it or not, out of my midfield, right? If I were to wild card, Saka probably isn't going to stay in my team because I'm going to have to find the money somewhere. Bailey wouldn't stay in my team. So maybe it's just a matter of downgrading Bailey to a 4.5. But even then, because he's already dropped in price, yeah, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So it's my midfield that's going to likely have to take the hit because I'm not getting rid of Trent. I'm not getting rid of Cancelo. Maybe even James, maybe a James to a Cucurella, save the 1.0 and then spread the funds around that way. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair. Well, the team looks good. Team looks good going into game week 3. I like that.
All right. So how about you show us what your team or your strategy is looking like going into the game week?
All right. So this is what the team is looking like for me going into game week 3. I have not made a single transfer. I'm sticking to my guns a little bit here. Looking at the team, realistically, I do want to be in a position where I'd like to make multiple transfers for really, it to make sense. Of course, Bailey is someone who needs to get moved on. As you can see, Bailey is actually first on the bench. Based on his game time, I am actually going to be rolling the dice with Nico this week versus Everton. If it's a toss-up between the two, I just think based on the time that Bailey is spending on the pitch versus Nico's at least playing 90 minutes. Yes, they might not keep a clean sheet versus Everton, but he also has the opportunity to get a potential attack in return. So I'm rolling the dice with Nico versus Bailey this week. And that really would have been the main transfer that I would have wanted to make. Initially, again, Mahrez is the second fire. He's going to roll another week. He got his 90 minutes last week, but he didn't. Even though he looked good, he just didn't end up getting involved in any of the goals. So we're going to roll this last dice with him for Newcastle. Going into game week 4, these are probably the 2 moves that I'm going to look to make, barring any other injury, major injury that comes up.
Yeah.
So we're going 5 at the back. We're going with the 2 Liverpool boys. Hopefully, Man U doesn't get on the score sheet. I'm hoping for that 3-0 to be what transpires there, and playing everyone else in the back. Mahrez is going to get another game, and then really when I'm thinking about captaincy, Mo, Holland, and Jesus are all viable options that I'm considering.
Right.
And to be honest, it's probably a 30% split
Right.
between the three of them. Mo, I think Man U is just in a position where they can be had, but Liverpool isn't exactly firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Holland, Newcastle is there, but they could just park the bus. And Jesus, I mean, he's looking incredible. Bournemouth is leaking goals. A part of me really wants to just go with Gabriel. I just don't know how I feel about captaining him right now, just based on how well he did last game. But we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. You know, it's going to be a last minute decision, but it's going to definitely be one of those three. A part of me actually wants to just keep it on Mo and really play with the vice captaincy in case the game gets postponed.
Right.
I don't even know why I'm thinking like that, but you know, you do weird things with captaincy in FPL. So right now it's on Mo as kind of the safe option and Holland as the vice captain, but that can definitely change prior to the game week. When I'm thinking about who is gonna come into the team based on transfers for next week, it's still a little bit of a toss up. I'm actually thinking similarly to you, where I might want to take a little bit of funds out of the midfield. I'm looking at Mahrez and maybe downgrading him and redistributing the funds elsewhere. But we'll see. We'll see how the game week goes. But this is how I'm currently set up. Bailey first off the bench. Andreas, hopefully the knock isn't too serious and he's able to at least get some game time, just in case we get into any trouble anywhere else. And we're expecting another one or two points from Ward in the in between the sticks. Nothing exciting is going to be coming from him. Don't expect Leicester to keep a clean sheet, but hopefully the real X factor here is really on Mars again, and hopefully he can deliver. That's really what this game week I think is going to boil down to. Can Mars deliver, and can the captaincy pick? Can we make the right choice from a captaincy standpoint?
Absolutely. Definitely. I hear everything that you're saying. I agree with you. I'm not shocked that you're deciding to roll the transfer. I think that Williams had a very decent game, and I think most people might be afraid to play him just because he's 4.0 million defender. We want to keep a clean sheet. That's why we bring in the defenders. But he was very attacking in that previous game. And wasn't that game against West Ham?
Yep.
West Ham, yeah, West Ham's not starting off too strong, but he was very attacking. Can he bring that to a weaker side? Everton, in theory, is supposed to be a weaker side than West Ham. It's
Yep.
just so early, right? So what the table looks like right now, it doesn't matter what the table looks like right now. Give it a couple more weeks, but I do like you having Williams in your starting 11 because some managers would probably have him first off the bench because they still have stronger starting 11s. He
Yeah.
could be a real differential for you this week if Nottingham Forest bag a clean sheet.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the big thing. The big thing is, can he actually take home some points there? It's just I'm in a position where it's him or Bailey, and I trust Nico more than I trust Bailey right now. That's basically where I'm at.
100% agree with you. Like how your team is looking. Finally, we're starting to see some differences in our squad. It's moving in that direction. Okay. So what I did.
Even sorry to cut you off, but I love your reasoning for making the big switch and dropping Robertson. And it's one of those things as the season goes on, Robertson is where you look to take the funds from. And for me, barring injury, Robertson's just not leaving my team. So, this is what's going to happen as we continue to go through. We're going to see, different strategies, tape shake, and, the teams are going to get a little bit more differentiated.
I would have loved to keep him in my team, but he's locking up funds and I'm not seeing the returns. And he's probably going to burn me this particular game week. And I'm not sure. I had to make a transfer.
Yeah.
Because I already had two, or I'm just going to, and I couldn't change Ward.
Gotcha.
by himself and still be able to carry over something. And I wanted Tony. I wanted Tony into my team.
Tony is a player 100%. I want this week as well. Tony is the player. If I could make a move, like I considered it for a hit, dropping Mahrez to, I think it was going down to Mahrez to Rodrigo and then Planche to try and get in Tony or something like that. Some iteration of that. I just couldn't stomach the hit right now.
Yeah.
With being able to play 11, I just couldn't stomach the hit. But that's a player. That's a player this week for sure.
All right. So what I wanted to actually show you was continuing the trend, a little bit of a differential team going into the game week. It's hard to. Here's what I want to do at some point, but I couldn't do it this week because some of the players that I think are going to bang are on a lot of people's teams. But there's going to be a game week that comes where every player that I have is going to be under 10% ownership. And that team is going to outscore both of our teams.
it should. Yeah. There should be that.
Under 10%, under 10% ownership, and it should. That's a big statement, brother.
Well, you know what? Not necessarily just the under 10% portion. I'm always of the inclination that a free hit team should always outscore, your real squad.
For sure. But I think that even on a free hit team, there's going to be a lot of highly owned players.
Yeah, you're right about
that. I hear what you're saying. So I put together a team. I left some money in the bank as well because I'm trying to showcase that these are the teams that you can still build with $100, £100, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to tell you now who's on the bench. Ward's on the bench. I'm going to start Raya. And then this is where things get a little tricky after I put Andreas on the bench. Because I still need 2 other players on the bench.
Yep.
But I'm really loving the squad. So right now it's probably going to be Dunk and Henry on the bench. And Henry's probably going to be first on the bench, followed by Dunk, followed by Andreas.
Okay.
Starting in the back, Cucurella, Walker, Gabriel. In the middle, Kulu, Martinelli, KDB, Madison. I had my eye on Madison. I think he's going to have a strong game week. And then I have Jesus, Tony, and Haaland just to mimic my real team because I really feel that those 3 forwards are going to have a solid game week.
Yeah, that's the front 3.
Yeah, so that front 3 isn't too much of a differential. KDB is not too much of a differential, and Kulu and Martinelli are not. But the likes of a Walker, a Gabriel, a Raya's even under 7% ownership if memory serves me right. Madison is still low ownership. Cucurella just over 10% ownership. So, let's see how this team bangs. Can it outscore what we both have? We're going to revisit it. But this is my semi-differential team going into game week 3. What do you think?
I love it. The team looks good. I like the picks. There's not one pick on here that I'm not a fan of. I think it's going. Set up. This team right here is set up to really take home some points. That's what I think. Cucurella expecting to start. Walker. Everyone here I'm expecting to start and do well. Madison is one of those players who, like you mentioned, is needs to have a big game week. I'm really interested to see how Leicester is going to perform. We touched on them earlier in the video as well. They need to have a big game, especially with the pressure that Rodgers is under, and Madison is usually the player to he's Leicester's creative spark. So
yeah,
I like that pick. Love the front 3. I'm excited to see how this team does, man. I'm excited to tune back in and see how they do.
No Liverpool.
You know what? I'm not mad at it though. I'm actually not mad at it though, based on how things are trending. You basically went KDB over Mo. You're backing City to do well. Where this team could hurt is if it's a 1-0 for the City game and 1-0 to Newcastle, then the team is it's a total disaster. But hey, every outside of that, I think I think it looks good. I think it looks good. All right, AC, I think we've covered everything. We can wrap this up. Everyone, want to thank you very much for watching another episode of Up Your Rank FPL. If you like the content that we brought to you today, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notification bells on. Share the video, and you can follow us on Twitter at Up Your Rank FPL. Catch you at the end of the game week. Peace. Take care. Be sure to like and subscribe.